So, let's talk about your factory. Every factory has muscle, right? You've got the machines, the materials, the workers, all that power. But what happens when there's no brain? Well, today we're going to dive into this invisible force that can literally make or break any manufacturing operation. And it leads to this incredibly frustrating situation that I'm sure sounds familiar. You've got all the pieces of the puzzle right there. You've got the people, the equipment, you have customer orders piling up, but somehow the final picture just doesn't come together on time. Why? That's the core mystery we're going to solve today.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the problem, the factory without a brain. Then we'll introduce the solution, get into its core functions, face a tough reality check, and wrap up by seeing why this brain is so absolutely critical.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the factory without a brain. This is all about having the parts but zero coordination.
Okay, so think of it like this. All your stuff, the machines, the workers, the raw materials, that's your factory's muscle. It's pure power, pure potential. But without a central nervous system calling the shots, coordinating every single move, all that strength just turns into chaos instead of real productivity.
So what's the answer here? If the problem is no coordination, the solution is pretty straightforward. You've got to install a brain. And in the world of manufacturing, that brain has a name. It's called Production Planning and Control, or PPC for short.
Okay, so what is PPC, really? Well, just think of it as the intelligence layer of the whole operation. It's the system that takes all those customer orders and translates them into a real, concrete, doable schedule for the factory floor. It is the absolute essential bridge connecting what your customers want with what your factory can actually do.
And man, life without it? It's chaos. You get this crazy disjointed reality where, some of your multi-million-dollar machines are just sitting there gathering dust, while other departments are completely overloaded. Every single new urgent order just throws the whole system into a tailspin. You end up breaking promises to customers, and your team is just constantly fighting fires instead of actually executing a solid plan.
All right, so we get it. We need this brain. But how does it, think? Let's take a peek inside and look at its 3 core planning functions. Okay, first things first. The brain's #1 job is a reality check. Before any promises get made to a customer, it asks the single most important question you can ask. Hey, based on the machine hours and people we actually have, can we do this? Can we really fulfill this order on time?
Let's make this super simple. Imagine an order comes in for 10,000 units, and let's say each one of those units takes 5 minutes of time on a specific machine. Now, the math here isn't complicated, but the result, it's incredibly powerful. That single order needs 833 hours of machine time. So, if your factory only has, say, 400 hours of capacity a week on that machine, well, there's just no way you can deliver in 1 week. It's impossible. See? PPC is what protects you from making promises you can't keep.
Okay, so once you know you actually have the capacity, the next step is something called machine loading. This is where the plan gets really granular. We're talking about deciding precisely which job runs on which machine and at what time, all to create this perfectly balanced, super efficient flow. And the whole goal here is to create a kind of harmony on the factory floor. When you do machine loading right, you prevent those awful bottlenecks. You get rid of idle machines just sitting there. It creates this smooth, stable rhythm that gets the most out of your equipment and keeps the whole production line moving like clockwork.
And that brings us to the 3rd core function, batch planning. This is all about answering that tricky question. How many of these things should we make in one go? Because, it's not always best to make everything in one giant run, but tiny little batches aren't great either. There's a sweet spot.
And this is a really crucial balancing act. If your batches are too small, you're constantly wasting time on setups, super inefficient. But if your batches are too big, you're tying up a ton of cash and inventory that might just sit there, or worse, become obsolete. The PPC brain is what does the math to find that perfect balance, the one that makes you the most money.
Now, even with the most perfect plan in the world, reality has a funny way of throwing a wrench in the works. So let's talk about a huge blind spot, something that can absolutely destroy even the best laid plans. It's time for the Rework reality check. So what is this blind spot? It's rework. We're talking about all the items that fail the quality inspection. They're not totally useless scrap, but they have to be sent back and fixed. And here's the kicker. Fixing them eats up resources. Time, people, machine capacity that were never, ever part of the original schedule. And this just creates a nightmare domino effect. Let's say 100 units fail QC. Well, now they have to go back into the production line. That immediately steals capacity that was already planned for other jobs. Suddenly, your entire schedule is at risk of falling apart. Now, a smart PPC system, it actually expects this to happen. It looks at the data from the past and builds in a buffer for exactly this kind of thing.
Okay, so this brings us to our final section. This is where we're going to tie everything together and really see why this factory brain isn't just some nice-to-have extra. It's an absolute necessity.
Because the payoff here is just huge. With a fully functioning PPC brain, your deliveries actually become predictable. Imagine that. Your inventory is under control instead of controlling you. The workload on the floor is balanced, which means way less stress for everyone involved. And the ultimate prize? You build real, solid trust with your customers because you do what you say you're going to do.
You know, there's a great quote that really just says it all. Production planning and control is not paperwork. It is the intelligence layer of manufacturing. It's not about filling out forms. It's the active thinking system that guides the entire show, from the moment an order comes in to the moment it's delivered.
And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. I want you to look at your own operations. Is your factory a place that runs on brute force and, last-minute heroics? Or is there an intelligent plan guiding everything? Is it all muscle, or does it have a brain?